Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J More Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, drop your questions or comments into the comment box, and I will check from time to time. Today's guest is Chaim William Silverberg, or just call him C-Dub or CW. He is passionate about kosher food and has dedicated himself to exploring the U.S. and sharing his stories on the YouTube channel Tripping Kosher. From Korean kosher to sushi, culinary competitions like barbecue to hot chicken, he and his partners in crime, Judd and producer Tzvika, spend their time highlighting, documenting, and sharing kosher Americana. Let's welcome the very shy CW.
Thank you, Dara. For the record, as a professional cook, I don't bake at all. I don't bake at all. I don't mess with baking.
But you did a lot with grilling. I mean, what brought you? I understand we have Tripping Kosher, but there was much more in front of that. You're now in Baltimore, but you're from Minneapolis. Tell us a little bit about the journey and what brought you to this.
Well, so thank God I have the opportunity to grow up in a real kind of pocket universe of kosher keepers in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. My clan has been there for over 100 years. They're all my cousins, and it's a religious Orthodox neighborhood. You would not understand or believe that in the middle of, the suburbs of Minneapolis, Minnesota, there's a full on, 100-plus-year-old kosher keeping community. But it allowed me to understand how special that was. So as I grew up and I got to explore other kosher keeping communities, go to New York and go to like a kosher restaurant for the first time, or go to Chicago and have the first kosher hamburger at a restaurant for the first time, they left the monumental impacts on me just because that's so cool to my universe and nobody else knows about it. If you keep kosher, you know about it. If you keep kosher and you travel in the Midwest, you know about it. But if you don't, you have no idea it exists. And I always thought these were great stories to tell. So that's kind of where the thought process comes from. I grew up keeping kosher in a space that there wasn't kosher. My friends all had kosher snacks for me in their house. I learned how to roll an egg roll from Minnesota's greatest Chinese chef, Leon Shin, because my family hired her to cook my brother's bar mitzvah in the kosher kitchen. Like, these are very special experiences that only occurred because of the lifestyle.
Was that Rainbow Chinese?
No, it was called Leon Shin.
Oh, okay. Because
she had hundreds of restaurants in the Midwest.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt and cut the
flow. No, this is a great back and forth. Listen, I'm of a certain generation where the ADD is kind of there. Television did something to our brains, we can float whatever topic is necessary.
Yeah. Okay. So what brought you to Baltimore? And before the show, what were you doing?
So it's been a wonderful time. I've been in Baltimore now, I think, for 16 years. I did live here when I was younger, in my early 20s. I was a certain sort of hellion and up to no good. And I said, I am never going to live in Baltimore after spending a year and a half here. And I moved to Israel and I continued the no good for a bunch of years. And there's Yiddish proverb, men strach the Gottlach, man plans, God laughs, right? So I met a wonderful woman and her whole family and support system live here in Baltimore. And I had the wonderful opportunity to move back here and pursue a career in teaching. I was a teacher at the Kennedy Krieger Institute for 8 years, which was a wonderful career, a fantastic career. But there's a point in some people's lives where they understand that they have something that they really, really want and need to do. And I wanted to be in the kosher food business. I wanted to tell the stories. I wanted to create the products. I wanted to be kind of in that service. I know a guy, I'm taking care of you kind of space. And
right.
My buddy owns the Knish shop, another classic Baltimore institution. And I spent a year and a half back there with a secret sandwich menu. And I was making all sorts of cured and smoked products. We had a kosher bacon called Bacon, made out of lamb, obviously. Right. And I had a catering company, and we took this catering company all over farmers markets and backyard catering in DC and Bethesda. where we did live fire cooking and chicken sandwiches. And all that was kind of I wanted to be like a Mr. Rogers of kosher. So I wanted to know all the parts. So I had a company that worked on slotting products into shelves. So if we had a really cool product in the non-kosher marketplace, this one kind of chili picante chip, before that was even a flavor, and you had a Heckscher, we're going to take your product and we're also going to slot you on the kosher aisle, because instead of being the one of 1,000 on this aisle, you're the one of one on that aisle. And that was a great introduction to CPG, consumer packaged goods. So I did that for a long time, just to learn the industry. And then after having the catering operation and going to, the CPG business, I felt that perhaps maybe I knew just a little bit enough to maybe like pretend on camera really well. And I met a television producer who was very close with my late brother-in-law. And I love this man. This man is the most important person he's the most important person in my life. He's also the most serious person in my life. So it's kind of a yin and a yang, because I am the opposite. But this man correctly identified me as some sort of, silly fool for a couple of years, and wasn't really going to have it. And then I had an opportunity to bring him with me to a kosher fest, which was a big giant kosher trade show. And I said, just follow me for, a day. And if I'm not the one to tell the story, it doesn't have to be me. But these stories need to be told, because we know that there's an audience. And 10 minutes in, he gave up his entire career to do this. So we've been doing this for 7 years. It's been a passion project. Our goal is just to create a standard of television for an audience that never watched television before, and for those who don't belong in the circle to be able to understand our universe. We're not necessarily in the Orthodox circle broadcasting out. We're kind of just in all the circles, just, trying to get it. We're understood by all mediums, we hope.
Right. And I want to explain to people, this is Tripping Kosher, trippingkosher.com.
Tripping Kosher.
Tripping Kosher, YouTube. And the segments are 3, 5, 6 minutes, dependent. And they are produced like any fine quality TV show.
Exactly. It's a real TV show. We don't even like advertise that fact. We just want you to fall into it. Everything's fully organic. We want you to watch it and be like, oh, this is really good, and then continue to watch it. We don't play algorithm tricks. We don't do any of that, much to our detriment, because, we'd be happy to have, millions of views. We have a couple 100,000, thank God. We've been doing this for 7 years. And our goal is to create this standard of what television looks like for an audience that did not have that. So Orthodox Jews have a certain access to social media now, because there are phones and there's WhatsApp and there's Instagram, yada, yada. But most of that is not produced television. Most of that is Instagrammer, food blog, that kind of relationship to the media.
Right.
And we wanted to really highlight something else. So what we did is we made a bunch of rules in the beginning. And we said we want to be as legitimate as it can be, because we have to teach the audience what legitimacy is. We have to show them that this is television for education and entertainment's sake. We pay for the food, the travel, the production. We've been doing this for 7 years. Thank God we have other things that allow us to fund this. But this is a self-funded project, just to illustrate to like everybody that how awesome is this tiny pocket universe that you're so aware of yet not aware of. 60% of every grocery store in the United States is kosher certified. That's a $20 billion marketplace in the United States. There's a massive impact to the lifestyle, but nobody's talking directly to them. And so like, that's our goal. Our goal is just to be like, hey man, you keep kosher, here's television for you. And then all those little episodes, which are, I guess I'm going to explain what they are. They are highlights. We can go to the middle of nowhere and find the one kosher place in Minneapolis, Minnesota, right, for example, and make a video about how special it is to, eat kosher in middle of Minnesota. The Mall of America has a kosher creperie, right? Who would have thought? Part of that goal is how we do it. And so they're not ego-based projects, so we never really say the word I. We don't talk about ourselves. We're not, look at us, let me tell you this. No, we're here to tell you in the most positive of ways that, like, I'm in the Mall of America eating a veggie burger. Like, that's cool, man. That's super cool. And they're not reviews in that aspect, because they're always highlights. If we're talking about the town and how to eat in the town, less about the food on the plate, Maybe it's not the greatest place, but it's the only place. So our story is there. If something's not great, we generally don't put it on camera. That's we just want to be positive with a certain love and will in Judy, we would say Bahavo Varatzon, like a goal, in structure. Do this right and correct, not about us. And then in the middle, I don't know if you've seen any of the little, we've been throwing in little lifestyle culture documentaries kind of in the middle, just sprinkled through. Like we have a
Well,
guy that was a rock and roller. Yeah, I'll go back to you.
I think there at some point with something I was watching that, yes, you have these segments, but you're also putting together other programs that can be streamed through the streaming networks. So that's something that we might not see now, but might see in the road ahead.
So you understand it because you grew up in media, PR, you're a pro, and you understand what television and storyline and structure are supposed to be. Like it took Mr. Beast 7 years to be relevant. Our goal is to just have this content, and we have a magnificent library, 7 years of content that we've only shown 20% of it. We've been filming for 7 years. So we went to an army base and we have a whole documentary on kosher MREs. That was cool. We have a documentary on the only Orthodox Jew in Sitka, Alaska. He is a judge for the Tlingit tribe, and he is saving the youth of the Tlingit tribe in all these tiny little corner pockets. It's just all these cool, would be interesting to people who keep kosher or are kosher curious. And I can tell you now that in November, I think November is when the series drops, but we are currently producing a pilot series for a streaming channel, which is exactly what we've always wanted to do, which is 30-minute videos about kosher Americana. I think the title, if I can release it, is, I don't know, maybe we'll get in trouble. I don't know. Schmoozing and Cruising, a trip through kosher Americana. And it is 30-minute segments about, so the first episode, there's nothing more American than barbecue. And so we've been going around the country to barbecue contests that are kosher for the past 7 years. And we've been going to, all our friends are like OGs of kosher barbecue already for 10 years. I myself had a barbecue company. I'm like, these are my peers.
Right. These are your people. So let me pause from barbecue, because when we spoke, I said, hey, I ran through a friend of mine who was judging barbecue, and he said, well, there were these kosher people, these barbecuers that were kosher. And can you hear? Great neighborhood. The sirens are rolling. So it was Warren Rockmacher. And
Warren.
Right. And you already knew him, but people don't realize that there's a commitment. They just don't do pork or seafood. It's the beef and lamb. And there's going to be
a very interesting story. Yeah. What he's doing a big thing.
Well, you'll be down there, I'm sure.
We shall see. Our schedules don't always work out so well. But yeah, Warren Rockmeyer is running a giant, like the Great American Kosher Barbecue something in Florida. And they're really putting a major effort. And one of the things that people like, so there are standards of barbecue in America. There are institutions of barbecue who define the rules. And one of the biggest ones is called the KCBS Barbecue. So Kansas City Barbecue Society. And they have guidebooks and rule books. And you can go on the professional circuit and you can make $1 million a year if you're a top tier KCBS barbecue guy. These are real things. I have a friend who was in charge of the kosher Kansas City kosher institutions, the Koshers of Kansas City, and he wanted to try barbecue. So he learned how to make barbecue. And he now has a restaurant in Cleveland, which I was at yesterday, called Mendel's Kansas City Barbecue. Used to have a place in Florida. They wrote a guidebook just for kosher contests for KCBS. There are KCBS sanctioned kosher contests, and the non-kosher keepers love competing in the KCBS because they all have the same smoker, because the smokers are provided. They all have the same briskets because the briskets are provided. And your ingredients list is going to be fairly similar. Everybody has their own mustards, whatever, but it's all gone through kosher. And it's all kind of like got the symbols. It's an even level playing field barbecue contest in the country like no other. And it's already become like such a special part of the barbecue world in general. Like there was something called Brisket Fest in New York. And for the first 3-4 years, it was won by Orthodox Jews.
What can I say? We know
We,
brisket.
it's in our blood.
It's in our blood. You want some brisket?
Yeah.
Come in, sit down. Um, yeah, I think we sort of covered it, but it was like I, um, I was trying to figure out what was that aha moment when black and white turned to color, and you said, "This is what I'm going to do," and I think we sort of covered that. Um, what are your recent shows to tell people? You did recent shows, New Haven, Connecticut, Boston, Massachusetts, New York, Toronto. Now, obviously, they're filmed and edited. It's not like this, it's live. Whatever you say is there for perpetuity. Um, you were talking about some of the next shows. What are some of the other ones coming up? Are you doing anything slanted towards the high holidays?
So we always try to do a special around the high holidays. This year it is going to be a video about a this guy who lives on the mountainside hillside of like Santa Barbara. Where was it? Something like that. Somewhere beautiful, and he makes a special wine out of honey, and it's kosher. He's not religious. He's not anything. He just met a guy who met a guy, and they make this kosher honey wine that is a very called Pearson Brothers. I think that's our special. We film so much. All we do is we film and film and film, and we just try to capture it all because we know that the next 20 years we have content. We have content forever. 100 seasons, baby. 100 seasons till the end.
You're
Um,
golden. You're
I,
golden.
we're
Not to
golden.
worry.
So we always have a couple. We have a list of things already finished. They generally take about 3 months of editing each video. People don't really understand that because the standard doesn't exist. They don't understand how these things work. Like we'll drop a video and somebody was like, "Oh man, I was just there an hour ago. I must have missed you." And you're like, "No, there was 40 hours worth of work that went into this video after we filmed it." I sit down. We have multiple cameras. That's an hour. Let's say an hour of filming on 3 cameras is 3 hours of editing just to look at it. You have to watch that 3 times before you even know what you're doing. There's a producer. His name is Svika Tal Productions. He is an absolute beast. He does the work of 20 people. This is his baby also. And our goal, I think, is for just people to start just let the traffic pick up. Let it kind of. We want just if a million different revenue streams all collect a penny a day. That's what we want. That's all we want. Just we need to get there, but that's our goal. That's our goal. Yeah.
Right. What does your traditional Rosh Hashanah table look like?
Oh, so there's opportunities to really mess about. So I'm a kosher keeper, and there are certain specific minhagim traditions that we have. So we have, there's going to be new fruits. There's going to be a leek dish. There's going to be a fenugreek dish. They all have a carrot dish. The fish head, I'm talking about, and there's all sorts of different symbolics. So in the modern era, you can kind of make up one or two more symbolics if you want. That's okay. It's all symbolic, but I like to mess with those things. I like to craft the Rosh Hashanah meal around all those simanim. So a fenugreek dish will be a side dish, a something dish will be a side dish, a carrot side dish. In previous years, I have messed with the fish head itself. Nowadays, I think I just, I take a beautiful king salmon fish and I, smoke the whole thing anyways. And then we have a beautiful fish head. But one year I had just a lamb, just a whole lamb, just looking like this, you know. It's a Sephardic tradition. It was delicious. It was not for everybody. But the new fruit has always been something fun. It used to always be like a star fruit or something, whatever you could find in the kosher grocery store. But now, Asian marketplaces have given us this kind of boon of just global fruits and the internet. And you can get anything you want. And I remember getting a durian for my clan like 15, 16
I
years
was
ago.
just going to
And
ask you, did you do
never
it?
again. Never. It was the first time I ever had one. Maybe 15, 16 years ago. It was just coming to America. They had to be frozen. And, gasoline sock custard is a very apt description. It's very terpene in the gas section. And it's got my problem was the texture and the look of it all. That was
Not
a
the
little.
smell?
This, you know what? I like the smell of gasoline sometimes. Who doesn't like their gas? You know,
Right. We talked earlier that you've gone to, and recently to the kosher trade show. You went to the fancy food show at the Javits Center, and then you went to the kosher trade show. What are some of the new items that you think are going to be surprising in the kosher market?
So this is something that we've been doing, like even before we were filming, I would go to these trade shows. I had a marketplace sector, like I worked in these trade shows. So
Right.
for years, my job was to watch the trends and communicate the trends anyways. Um, we have a really great time. We go to, I think, 6 or 7 trade shows a year. We're press. I want people to understand that we're press. We're legitimate. We're a legitimate press outfit, and we go and report on the kosher at these trade shows. Now they're really starting to have certain prevalence because I think the kosher agencies themselves are. I think that's really what people are going to start seeing now. Beyond anything else, I can't stress 60% of every grocery store in the country is kosher certified. I mean, you're always going to find kosher beans, kosher rice, kosher dry goods, veggies are fine. You can have kosher chicken in every Trader Joe's in the country. Belgioso cheese is a big one. Belgioso cheese, which is one of the largest fresh mozzarella producers in the entire United States, now has an OUD. An OUD is Orthodox Union. It is the largest recognized kosher symbol in the world, with over 1 million products with their symbol on it. OUD Belgioso cheese, that fresh mozzarella is going to blow it up. Polio started it a couple of years ago, but being able to travel in the country and get kosher cheese and kosher chicken anywhere in the United States is the whole point of our exercise. 98% of the people who buy kosher don't actually keep kosher. It's an idea that there's a third party overseer. And that's really where the marketplace exists. And what we're trying to do is explain that there's another part of this marketplace. So when we go to the trade shows, what else are we going to see? I mean, plant-based, thank God, plant-based everything, right? We live in a world of a kosher cheeseburger that legitimately is a kosher cheeseburger. I've had plenty of vegetarian, fake, plant, whatever you want to call it, faux meats. And when you're looking for a certain kind of, fast foody Mickey D's kind of hit of that kind of, it works. It works with, the Impossibles, the Improbables, they all work. And that's a cool, the fish proteins are very cool. The faux fish proteins coming out are cool. There's shrimp that's made out of algae, where like the flavor's got some work, but the texture is bananas crazy. It's got that kind of little snap jiggle. I play with these things all day. I don't know. I think we live in a world, this golden age of everything anyways, that we just have to celebrate that you go to a trade show like Javits, in the Javits Food Center. It's 8 miles of showroom floor that,
Worked it, been there every
the
year.
drill every year. And it's magnificent because like you can legitimately just, as a kosher keeper, there's so many symbols, and the kosher agencies now are representing that idea that there's a way to communicate that. So you're seeing like the OU is doing a lot of like TikTok, Instagram kind of push. The other kosher agencies are doing it too. They're explaining their positions, why they hold one way or another, and they're talking about their product, their products, which is
Let
what
me
we were.
let me let me
Yeah.
just interject. I mean, I would tend to think there are going to be some additional people watching the show that don't know what kosher is. Hopefully, that we've broadened the view for tripping kosher. But there's different groups that certify kosher. So it's Circle K. How
Yeah.
many are there?
There are 2,700 kosher agencies in the world. We are familiar with maybe a top 10. In fact, here in Baltimore, we have something called the Star K, which is one of the highest global standards of American kashrus. There is something called kosher. It is not just a lifestyle. It is a pre-prescribed, perhaps from, a higher power, a way to eat. There are things we do eat, the things we don't eat. Most people know we don't eat pork. If you know about kosher, we don't eat pork. Halal and kosher are very similar. We are related. It's a great uncle that we don't talk about at the family reunion. It's we're the same
Right.
families. Everybody's got kosher. Sometimes eat halal, halal sometimes eat kosher. But there are standards and there are opinions because we are of the Jewish faith. That's how we work. And not everybody agrees on every opinion and standard. So there are hierarchies of kosher symbols, and there's a hierarchy of, what people are acceptable themselves and what they aren't. We, as an outfit, very specifically are not the arbiters of kosher standards. We're just telling you that something kosher exists. We have our own personal standards on the show, but there are times when people are a little upset at us for promoting a place that's not necessarily more of a global standard. That's okay. You don't have to eat there. Ask your own rabbi. Our goal is to tell you the story.
Right.
Please
Right.
enjoy. Enjoy.
Enjoy. You know,
A lot of opinions. So many
I
opinions.
I can't remember who I was talking to. Oh, I know who it was. Cashew Creamery, which is here in Baltimore. It's plant-based. And they were using herbs and different things, and they had sorrel in one of their faux ice creams because you can't call it ice cream because there's no
Yeah.
milk in it. And I talked to her about chav.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorrel. Delicious.
Chav, wonderful. And it's something that, I sort of forgot about and it's been on my mind in the past couple days. You get Manischewitz made the jar. It's a liquid made with sorrel, which is sour grass or sour greens, and sour cream, hard-boiled eggs,
Mm.
cucumbers, scallions, and so refreshing in the summer. And I had looked. I'm close to Safeway. I looked in their kosher section. It's not there. I
It's all
went to the
gone. It's all gone.
I went to the kosher market. Not there anymore. Manischewitz says nobody's making shav.
Do you want me to make you some, Dara? I will happily make you some shav. Shav is a
Ooh,
real Eastern European like summer soup.
right.
Sorrel is like a lemony sour, so people can understand that. And just like imagine like a cooling sour, like mm, mm, I
It,
like
it's a
that.
it's a Jewish gazpacho.
Yeah, it
It's a
perhaps.
chilled soup, I guess.
Yeah,
No, no. Go ahead.
but the manufacturer Manischewitz is now owned by a company called Keiko, and I think it was such a limited marketplace for a very long time. Even jarred gefilte fish is almost rare now. These things they ebb and flow, they come and go. There are places, but we're trying to like keep that historical perspective alive. Like there's a place in Boston. It's called the Lair House, and it is a house of study. So like a kind of like a it's called a basement, so like a study house where you can have debates about kosher, and the bar is all built on that historical Eastern European Jewish, but with the global Jewish influence. And that's like the kind of thing they would throw down. I don't know if they have it
I,
on the menu right now, but I'm going to tell them that they got to.
right.
They got to.
I want to remind people just know tripping kosher, YouTube, Facebook.
Well, wherever the internet's sold. So if you go on the internet and you say tripping kosher, there's like 1,000 platforms. LinkedIn. Who knew? LinkedIn is like a kosher Orthodox kind of safe space in social media. And so who knows? But like LinkedIn is this whole like Hasidic atmosphere.
Oh,
It's
really?
fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, LinkedIn has like I know my people from LinkedIn. Like videos are being made in Yiddish for the Yiddish crowd because that's who it's you don't have to deal with a certain kind of obstructed view that other social medias can provide.
Right.
People do not go on LinkedIn and share their most personal, intimate details and features on LinkedIn like they do in the rest of social media. I'm no Puritan by any means. I'm just trying to explain like LinkedIn is great for that.
Okay. We've done well. We've filled the slot time-wise, which I didn't think would be a problem. We come to my questions that I ask at the end of the show. What's the best bite you've had all week?
I was in a bagel place yesterday in Cleveland, Ohio. This bagel place there's a guy, he just wanted to throw down real good bagels. And it's kosher and they're hand rolled and they got the right kind of chew, the right kind of bite. And it was a spicy everything. But inside it, he had this magnificent, it's kind of like tuna whip almost, and harissa with a little lemon. And it was a za'atar bagel. So there's a lot of smarts going on here. And
Yeah.
all together, it tasted like something called a Tunisian fricassee, which is a Tunisian egg tuna sandwich donut thing. And I was like, that's it. That's my bite. That's the one I had today. That
Okay.
to me made the most like smarts, you know?
All righty. If you give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
You're a dumbass. What else do you tell your 18-year-old self? You do. Yeah, I consider the teenage years and just that whole area and space and time to be a form of mental illness, perhaps. I don't think I was in the greatest of
You,
healthiest of spaces, and I
so,
was
so
a
you'd have
terrible
no
18-year-old.
advice for yourself when you were 18 years old if you
It's
could go.
something you think about all the time. Like, what would I tell myself? I don't live in a world of like shoulda, couldas. This is the timeline I chose. This is the timeline I live in, and my 18-year-old self is still in the timeline that I'm in. Maybe I would say, just try to like settle down a year or two earlier than you ended up doing it. Maybe, but I live in a wonderful world in a wonderful universe with very little regrets. It's
That's
I don't
great.
know.
That's
Thank
great.
God. I'm not responsible for it. I'm kind of proof that God exists because I'm the happy fool. That whole,
Okay, that's great. What's your epic culinary fail?
epic. I have a really, really solid success rate, like a 98%. So, like when I make something, it's always usually, thank God, pretty good. Those 2% will completely, whatever they are, they'll completely destroy all the credit and whatever I've earned from the other 98%. There's been a lot of different ones. I've been cooking for 20 years. Epic fail. They were all gross. I tried to make a head cheese out of lamb. That did not work. That was kind of gross.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so many, so many.
Okay. Tomorrow morning, if you wake up tomorrow morning with a new talent, what would the new talent be
For myself or for others?
for you?
For me, a new talent. I'm an incredibly jovial person. I would hope that my new talent could be to, just kind of tone it down sometimes. That would come in handy. It's very difficult, but I'll try to do it. It come in very handy in awkward situations.
Okay.
I'm a
Okay.
lot.
And I know I'm opening up Pandora's box with this question. What didn't I ask you that I probably should have?
Nothing, Dara. You're great. You're a pro. I don't know. I'd like to thank my wife and kids for tolerating all this. Whoever else thank yous go out to, Tzvika Judd. Judd is great. Tzvika is great. Wherever the internet's sold, there's a guy who just makes videos about kosher highlights. You covered it. What do I? Listen, there'll be another time, Dara. I'm here for you. This is
I
easy.
know. I
This is
know. You're
delightful.
you're easy peasy. That's what it said on the bathroom walls.
Easy Pete. That well, we're not going to talk
Eh,
about that time
Okay.
and place
Any,
here.
anything goes here. Well, I want to thank you, CW or Chaim William
There you go.
Silverberg.
Yeah, my parents have an odd sense of humor. My first name is just the letter C. Like I
Okay.
don't know why, but on my license it says C. William Silverberg. They never gave me a good like reason, but I'll roll with it. I'll roll with it. I appreciate the time. Thank you for the opportunity, Dara. This has been fantastic.
Yes, it has. And we will see you once again, I'm sure. Thank you so much. And I'm just going to go on with a couple of announcements. Okay, everyone, my food tidbit of the week, it's really multiple ones. Some of the things that I do um, when I get a thing of mushrooms, I slice them up, I cook them up with butter, salt, and pepper, some onion, and I freeze it. Now, sometimes I put it in ice cube trays. Other times I just do it in a block and saw off what I want. When I make eggs in the morning, I might saw off a little bit. So I have sauteed mushrooms. Another thing that I do is, I do it in thin slices, stick that in the freezer. So I might dice up a slice of that and the mushrooms and make eggs in the morning. Uh, Other place to find out great tips is with Sarah Moulton on her Instagram, and that's Sarah Moulton. Look her up. She's doing great tips. You all know her from the Food Network. She did the live show, Sarah's Weekly Night Meals, that are on PBS. And she's also on Milk Street, and she's going to be on the show October 5th, so mark your calendars. She's coming back for a second time. Check out Sarah Moulton's Instagram or her Facebook page. She does these tips are like 15 seconds, and you go, could I had the V8? Next week's guests are Rachel Gordon Barnett and Lisa Klingman Harvey. They're lifelong Southern Carolinians who have been instrumental in preserving Jewish history across the state. Their recently released book, Kugels and Collards, Stories of Food, Family, and Tradition in Jewish South Carolina. And of course, it has recipes. And look for it. Jay Moore did a little story on it already. I'll pull the book up here. There we go. And let's see. Before I forget, also monthly, Jay Moore is giving away $50 gift cards to some of your favorite local restaurants. jmoreliving.com/contest, and you can enter there. If you need to reach me, you can reach me at food@jmoreliving, or my Instagram is @DaraCooks. All shows are immediately archived in video form on Jay Moore's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. Feel free to dig into our video archives of past shows, share them with friends and family. We do appreciate it when you share it. And as I like to end the show, may your plates always, always remain full. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next Thursday.